Now, there's a shocking update in the case of 4-year-old Jonathan Everett Bolley. A case that began on New Year's Eve in Walker County, Alabama, and quickly captured national attention. What started as a desperate search for a missing child has since unfolded into a complex investigation marked by confirmed facts, troubling discoveries, and critical questions that remain unanswered. Today, we're breaking down what we know, what we don't, and why separating fact from speculation matters more than ever as authorities continue their work. Before we continue, please take a moment to like this video, share it to help keep this case visible, and subscribe to the channel for responsible, fact-based true crime coverage. Your engagement helps ensure these stories are discussed with care and accuracy. And in the comments, share your thoughts respectfully and let us know where you're watching from. Jonathan Everett Bolley was just 4 years old when he was reported missing on December 31st, 2025. In Jasper, Walker County, Alabama, a rural area known for its quiet roads, wooded land, and close-knit community. Jasper was preparing to welcome the new year when concern quickly replaced celebration. Jonathan had been staying with his father during the holiday visit. According to authorities, he was last seen earlier that day on or near the property, an area surrounded by dense woods and uneven terrain. At first, nothing appeared out of the ordinary. But as time passed and Jonathan could not be located, concern escalated rapidly. What might have begun as a routine missing child report soon became a large-scale search operation, drawing in local law enforcement, neighboring agencies, volunteers from the community, and eventually federal resources. The age of the child, the rural setting, and the dropping temperatures all contributed to the urgency. Within hours, this case moved beyond a local concern and into the national spotlight. As details emerged, public attention intensified not only because of the search itself, but because of unexpected developments that surfaced during the investigation. Developments that complicated the case and fueled widespread discussion online. To understand why this case unfolded the way it did, and why clarity is so important now, it's necessary to walk carefully through the confirmed timeline of events, step by step. The confirmed timeline begins on December 31st, 2025. According to law enforcement, Jonathan Everett Bolley was last seen earlier that day while staying at his father's property in Jasper. The exact time he was last observed has not been publicly released, but authorities have confirmed that at some point, Jonathan wandered out of sight. As the afternoon progressed and Jonathan could not be located, concern grew. Family members attempted to search the immediate area, but when those efforts failed, local law enforcement was contacted. Once the child was officially reported missing, the response escalated quickly. Sheriff's deputies arrived on scene and began searching the property and surrounding areas. Roads, nearby fields, and wooded sections were checked. Given Jonathan's age and the rural terrain, officers treated the situation as urgent from the outset. Time, weather conditions, and environmental risks were all immediate concerns. As daylight began to fade, additional resources were requested. Search efforts expanded beyond the immediate property, and neighboring agencies were brought in to assist. Volunteers from the community began arriving, forming organized search groups under law enforcement direction. By the end of the first day, the case had shifted from a local response to a multi-agency search operation. Tracking dogs were deployed. Drones and aerial units were requested to scan areas difficult to access on foot. Each hour that passed increased concern, as officials worked against both time and challenging terrain. Throughout this period, authorities continued documenting witness statements and reviewing any information that could indicate where Jonathan may have gone. Every confirmed sighting, Possible path and environmental factor was logged carefully. As the search moved into its next phase, the scale of the operation expanded significantly. Local law enforcement was joined by agencies from surrounding counties, along with federal support, including the FBI. The priority remained clear: locate Jonathan as quickly and safely as possible. Search teams were organized into grids to methodically cover the surrounding woods, fields, and uneven terrain. Tracking dogs worked through dense underbrush, while drones scanned from above, providing aerial views of areas that were difficult or dangerous to access on foot. Helicopters assisted in surveying wide stretches of land, particularly as visibility became more limited. Volunteers from the community continued to play a crucial role. Neighbors, friends, and strangers alike showed up, many spending long hours combing through the cold terrain under law enforcement guidance. In rural areas like Jasper, community involvement often becomes a critical component of search efforts. And this case was no exception. The challenges were substantial. The landscape surrounding the property consisted of thick woods, narrow trails, and uneven ground. Winter temperatures added another layer of risk, particularly for a young child. Every decision made by authorities balanced speed with safety, both for the missing child and for those conducting the search. Throughout the operation, investigators remained focused on confirmed information. Search areas were revisited multiple times, and potential paths Jonathan could have taken were evaluated carefully. Officials emphasized coordination and documentation, ensuring no area was overlooked. During the ongoing search, law enforcement conducting a thorough investigation of the property where Jonathan had been. Staying made us serious and unexpected. Discovery. Authorities identified materials believed to be explosive in nature, creating an immediate safety concern for everyone involved in the operation. As a result, portions of the search were temporarily paused while bomb technicians and specialized units secured the area. This decision was made strictly for safety reasons and not because of any new information about Jonathan's location. Still, the pause introduced added tension, as every delay in a missing child case carries emotional and practical weight. Shortly after this discovery, Jonathan's father, Jameson Kyle Bolley, was taken into custody. Law enforcement confirmed that the arrest was related to charges involving the manufacturing of a destructive device and chemical child endangerment. From the outset, officials were clear and consistent in their messaging. These charges were not connected to Jonathan's disappearance or the search for him. Despite repeated clarifications, the arrest quickly became a focal point of public attention. News coverage intensified, and speculation spread rapidly online. Authorities responded by emphasizing that, at that stage, there was no evidence linking the father's arrest to Jonathan's disappearance or condition. The investigation into the explosives was treated as a separate, legal matter. This development complicated an already difficult situation. While parts of the property were secured, search efforts continued in surrounding areas. Investigators worked to ensure that the presence of hazardous materials did not derail the primary objective finding: Jonathan. Law enforcement stressed the importance of avoiding assumptions. In cases like this, unrelated discoveries can easily distort public perception, even when official statements are clear. Maintaining that distinction was critical, not only for the integrity of the investigation, but also for ensuring that attention remained focused where it belonged. After more than 48 hours of continuous searching, authorities confirmed the outcome no one had hoped for. On January 2nd, 2026, Jonathan Everett Bolley was found deceased. His body was located approximately 2 miles from his father's property. In a wooded area, that had been included within the broader search perimeter. Law enforcement has not released an official cause of death, and investigators have stated that the case remains under active review. Officials emphasize that this stage of the investigation requires careful analysis and that conclusions would not be rushed. Near where Jonathan was found, his family dog, Buck, was discovered alive. While this detail offered a small measure of context regarding Jonathan's last known movements, authorities have not publicly stated how long the child may have been in the area or the precise path he traveled. Buck's presence, however, became an important reference point for investigators reconstructing the timeline. The confirmation of Jonathan's death brought an immediate wave of grief through the community. Volunteers who had spent days searching were informed of the outcome, and law enforcement publicly acknowledged the dedication and persistence shown throughout the operation. Hundreds of individuals, from local residents to specialized response teams, had contributed to the effort. At the same time, officials urged the public and the media to proceed with caution. With emotions running high and attention focused nationwide, investigators stressed that accuracy and restraint were essential. The father's unrelated arrest continued to circulate online, and authorities reiterated that there was no confirmed connection between those charges and Jonathan's death. At this point in the investigation, there are several facts that have been officially confirmed by authorities. These details form the foundation of what is known and should be clearly separated from speculation or opinion. Jonathan Everett Bolley was 4 years old at the time of his disappearance. He was reported missing on December 31st, 2025, while visiting his father in Jasper, Walker County, Alabama. A large-scale search effort was launched involving local law enforcement, surrounding county agencies, federal resources, and community volunteers. Tracking dogs, drones, and aerial units were used to search the surrounding terrain. On January 2nd, 2026, Jonathan was found deceased approximately 2 miles from his father's property in a wooded area. Authorities have confirmed the discovery but have not released a cause of death. Jonathan's family dog, Buck, was found alive near the area where Jonathan was located. Investigators have acknowledged that this detail provided additional context during the search process. During this search, Jonathan's father, Jameson Kyle Bolley, was arrested on charges related to manufacturing a destructive device and chemical child endangerment. Law enforcement has stated repeatedly that these charges are not connected to Jonathan's disappearance or death. The investigation into Jonathan's death remains ongoing, and authorities have confirmed that additional information will be released only when it can be verified and responsibly shared. Despite the confirmed facts, there are critical elements of this case that remain unanswered. These unknowns are central to the investigation and underscore why caution and patience are necessary as authorities continue their work. First, the official cause of Jonathan Everett Bolley's death has not been released. Investigators have not indicated whether environmental factors, medical issues, or other circumstances played a role. Until forensic examinations and investigative reviews are completed, this information remains unavailable to the public. Second, it is not yet clear how Jonathan traveled the distance from his father's property to the location where he was found. The terrain between those points is rural and challenging, particularly for a 4-year-old child. Authorities have not confirmed whether Jonathan walked the entire distance on his own or whether other factors influenced his movement. There is also no publicly confirmed timeline detailing how long Jonathan was in the wooded area or when he may have passed away. These details are often among the most complex to determine and require careful analysis of physical evidence and environmental conditions. Additionally, Investigators have not stated whether any further charges related to Jonathan's death are being considered. At this time, law enforcement has not announced any connection between the child's death and criminal activity. These unanswered questions have led to widespread speculation, particularly online. However, authorities have emphasized that speculation does not equal evidence. Drawing conclusions before investigators have completed their work risks spreading misinformation and undermining the integrity of the case. Understanding what remains unknown is just as important as recognizing what has been confirmed. It creates space for the investigation to proceed responsibly and helps the public engage with the case in a way that is informed rather than reactive. As attention on this case increased, so did the volume of commentary across social, media, and online forums. In situations involving missing children and unexpected developments, speculation can spread rapidly, often faster than verified information. Authorities have repeatedly cautioned the public against drawing conclusions based on incomplete or unconfirmed details. One of the primary concerns raised by law enforcement has been the misinterpretation of unrelated information, particularly regarding the father's arrest. Despite clear statements that those charges are not connected to Jonathan's disappearance or death, assumptions and theories continue to circulate. This type of speculation can distort public understanding and place unnecessary pressure on investigators and family members alike. Misinformation does not only affect public perception, it can interfere with ongoing investigations. False narratives can lead to the spread of inaccurate tips, divert attention from legitimate leads, and create confusion that slows investigative progress. For families already experiencing loss, public speculation can also deepen trauma. Responsible engagement means relying on official updates and verified reporting rather than rumors or viral posts. It also means understanding that not all information can or should be released immediately. Investigations, particularly those involving children, require time, precision, and care. Law enforcement agencies involved in this case have emphasized transparency within appropriate limits. Updates have been shared when possible, but officials have made it clear that accuracy must come before speed. This approach helps protect the integrity of the investigation and ensures that conclusions, when reached, are based on evidence rather than assumption. Cases involving missing children in rural areas present unique and often underestimated challenges. From an investigative standpoint, vast terrain, limited visibility, and unpredictable environmental conditions can complicate even the most well-coordinated search efforts. In Jonathan Everett Bolley's case, these factors played a significant role from the very beginning. Rural landskapen, armswoods, uneven ground, and natural obstacles that can obscure tracks and make movement difficult to trace. For a young child, these environments can be especially dangerous, increasing the urgency while simultaneously limiting the ability to gather immediate evidence. Time, weather, and temperature all become critical variables. Another challenge investigators face is establishing movement patterns. Young children do not navigate terrain the way adults do, and their decisions are often unpredictable, without clear surveillance footage or eyewitness accounts. Reconstructing a child's path requires careful interpretation of physical evidence, search data, and environmental clues. Additionally, investigations must account for secondary developments that arise during such as discoveries unrelated to the disappearance, such as hazardous materials, can necessitate pauses or shifts in focus. While these actions are taken for safety and legal reasons, they can introduce delays that are difficult to avoid. Throughout this process, investigators must also balance public communication with investigative integrity. Releasing too much information too soon can compromise evidence, while releasing too little can fuel speculation. Navigating that balance is one of the most difficult aspects of high-profile cases. What remains consistent across cases like this is the need for methodical, evidence-based analysis. Conclusions cannot be drawn until all available information has been reviewed and even then so answered. Recognizing these realities helps frame expectations and reinforces why patience is essential. At the center of this case is not a headline or an online debate, but a 4-year-old boy named Jonathan Everett Bolley. A child whose life, though brief, mattered deeply to his family and to the community that came together in an effort to find him. The response from Jasper and the surrounding areas showed how quickly people can unite in moments of crisis, driven by the shared goal of protecting a child. Hundreds of volunteers, alongside local, state, and federal authorities, dedicated time, energy, and resources to the search. Their efforts reflected compassion, urgency, and a collective refusal to give up hope. While the outcome was heartbreaking, the commitment shown throughout the search remains a powerful reminder of community resilience. As this case moves forward, investigators continue working to answer the remaining questions with care and precision. The cause of Jonathan's death has not yet been released, and authorities have made it clear that speculation serves no one. Allowing the investigation to proceed without interference is essential for truth and accountability. For those following this case, the responsibility now lies in how it is discussed and shared. Staying informed through official updates, avoiding unverified claims, and remembering Jonathan as a child, not a controversy, helps ensure that his story is handled with the respect it deserves. If you choose to engage in the discussion, do so thoughtfully and compassionately. Share verified information, support responsible reporting, and remember the real lives affected by these events. Thank you for watching and for taking the time to approach this case with care. Stay informed, stay respectful, and above all, keep the focus where it belongs on truth, accountability, and the memory of Jonathan Everett Bolley. I'm Detective B, if you're fascinated by real life, mysteries, and criminal investigations. Tap like, subscribe, and share your opinion in the comments. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what you think about today's case. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, and remember, in true crime, the line between fact and perception is often thinner than we realize.